It's fine to lose. It sucks, right? But it's not the end of the world. Try to like focus on our next upcoming games.
저희가 조금 이긴 상태니까 편하게 할 수 있지 않을까 생각하고 있어요.
我就感觉他是一个很全面、很强的三单，我会尽出全力的打吧，就怎么赢他就不好说，就尽全力吧。
I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, your group is going to be easy." To me, I see it as 3 teams that can beat us at any given day.
对了，就非常兴奋，因为这边的观众都非常热情，不管是有名气还是没有名气的队伍，他们都会为你的精彩操作去呐喊。
Just walks in, Kobe taking so much damage.
One championship if they can hold. Taipei Assassins are the Season 2 World Champions. This could be a 20-minute game for SK Telecom.
And Samsung White are the 2014 World Champions.
SKT will be your first ever 2-time World Champions.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Day 3 of the 2016 League of Legends World Championship. With 2 days and 12 matches into the books, we're just getting started as our competitors fight to be one of the 8 teams that will advance to the quarterfinals. In Chicago, the thunder sticks are waving, the fan signs have been made, and everybody is ready for some serious action, hopefully just as eventful as the previous 2 days have been. We've seen upsets, we've seen resurgences. CLG here made their way into the building earlier today, preparing to do battle in their second group stage match. SKT is locked in, ready to face IMA later in the day. The guys seen here in the practice rooms. Now RNG also hard at work, getting some last-minute practice. Everyone, hello. Thank you for watching with us. I'm James Dash Patterson, anchoring the analyst desk, where I'm joined. Today's panel of experts is James Stress O'Leary from the European LCS. We've got LCK commentator Christopher Papa Smithy Smith, and the North American LCS's Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler. We're back for Day 3, gentlemen. The crowd is hyped. Are you hyped? Is the energy still flowing through your veins?
Oh, yes. Very much so, James.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Yesterday, we got our first look at the 4 teams in Group B, meaning all 16 squads have been on stage at least once so far. And with that in mind, I want to ask you guys what has stood out so far in our first 2 days of play.
I mean, the big story, Day 2, was all about the expected favorites, the strong teams coming in and really performing. Day 1 was about the upsets. The Brazilian team took out the first seed from China. That was the big upset. Did that set the tone for Day 2? No, but we already know now everything's possible.
Very much so, and of course, then we have to look at the LPL making some moves yesterday with EDG picking up their first win after a disappointing Day 1, Stress.
Exactly, we had a bit of a bounce back, although a lot of the casters were talking about it's a little bit more like a wet tennis ball than actually a bounce back, but nevertheless, EDG picked themselves up a win on the board. But the real team from China that we have to focus on their performance from yesterday was RNG. Perhaps one of the most dominating games we've seen at a Worlds ever, with the amount that they just ran over Splice. Uzi and Mata in that bottom lane just straight up out 2v2ing the Splice duo, and it just looked clinical from there. The amount of damage Uzi was putting out on that Ezreal was insane.
Gotta say, I think Uzi heard when I didn't mention him in the top 3 Ezreals at the tournament. Proved me wrong. Really nice performance from him. Not a legacy Ezreal, but obviously been scrimming it and looked great.
Important to note that they are topping their group 2-0 right now, but Kobe, TSM made a resurgence themselves yesterday, too.
TSM also did pick themselves up. We mentioned EDG, similar resurgence there for TSM as they went back to a very similar strategy. They had strong lanes. They picked a strong early jungler in Lee Sin again for Svenskeren, being one of the highlights for the team. And he had 26% time counter jungling once again, returning to their North American stats, basically, the normal season, the way they used to play the game.
And this is the TSM that we expected to see coming into the tournament. Also, something that, you know, kind of we can key off of games like that, the rise in the power of Syndra here on Day 1, as well as Lee Sin for certain players like Svenskeren.
And Day 2 definitely didn't happen in a vacuum. Remember, this was the day where Aurelion Sol was disabled, And actually, I think that this was the kind of situation where you have a new variable, a champion that you've been practicing, you've been scrimming. We all heard, I'm sure, in hushed tones that Aurelion Sol was going to be a big pick at this tournament. It's disabled. And I think the analysts and coaches were the real ones to track yesterday, because the big story is a lot of analysts that I spoke to before the tournament said, Aurelion Sol, that's the strong pick against Syndra coming into yesterday. Lots of first pick Syndras, lots of Syndras dominating, and not many resources left to really answer it.
Yeah, the pick ban has become increasingly important. With the caliber of the teams here, all it takes is a strong matchup and then maybe one mistake from the enemy team for these teams to identify what their strong point is and play off of that. It's so much stronger for you to play off of a winning lane than try and cover a weakness right now. We've actually seen this with SKT, right? They got the Syndra very early, and as soon as they got just one mistake from Jensen, Bengi moves in, and you see the vision balloon around FLICKR. If you go back and watch those games, he has 360-degree coverage of vision with which to have the confidence to push up between turrets and continue to bully Jensen completely out of the game. So, you know, moving forward, all of the top teams are identifying their strongest point on the map and then playing off that.
Now, on that note, Aurelion Sol is still disabled today, but will be re-enabled tomorrow on day 4 of groups. So have no fear. He is returning to the Rift. We will get to see how teams then readjust to the reintroduction of that champion. Let's turn now, though, to the standings coming into day 3 of groups. CLG and ROX Tigers lead Group A. IMA and SKT have the edge in Group B. Group C is tied across the board at 1-1. And then, of course, RNG leads Group D with a 2-0 record. Of course, those standings are sure to change today as Groups A, B, and D compete, starting with North America's Counterlogic Gaming and the LCL's Albus Nox Luna. Then ROX Tigers do battle with G2 Esports, and after that, Group B takes over with the LMS's Flash Wolves versus North America's Cloud9. Of course, for those of you looking for an alternative angle on the competition, you're in luck. Over on Riot Games 2, we're featuring the Player Experience stream. Our casters are joined by special guests in Nori and Frogging to tackle individual matchups and deliver high-level analytical commentary throughout the day. Each matchup, has a new focus with questions from fans answered live on air. It's time to get into the action, so let's send it over to the casters for Game 1.
And good day, everyone. I am Richard Polskamp, joined today by Zach Rusty Pie and our last-minute substitution format, our very own Aiden Zyrian Moon. How are you doing, ladies and gentlemen?
Good.
You can decide which one's the lady.
Did you just assume my gender? No. They're happy to be here, of course. The player experience stream, a lot of fun, especially given our first game. It's going to be explosive, I think, to say the least.
Yeah. I didn't know I was going to be on this, so I'm actually very excited because I want to see what happens with Likkrit. If he goes back to the Bard, because he didn't have a good showing on that champion, and I want to see him on like the Zyra or the Brand, because the way that the league that he comes from works, the LCL, I believe, it is absolutely insane up there. The supports have like the most damage out of any supports, and he's number 2 in the world for support damage behind somebody in his league. So it's very bloodthirsty up there. And Tom, I think our stats guy said it, the CIS, it's Commonwealth of Independent Supports. They don't need no AD carry. They just end up blowing people up, and I want to see him do that today. But I think it's going to get banned.
Yeah, unfortunately so. I think maybe the Bard will also be denied as well. But you're tuned into Riot Games 2, where we're presenting the player experience streams. We're bringing you the unique looks at each of today's 6 group stage matches. And during each of those games, you can expect a new focus on an individual player, matchup, or facet of the game, with high-level strategy, mechanical discussions provided by the experts and analysts themselves. That's you guys. And first up, we are breaking down, of course, the battle of the supports, as you guys mentioned already, between CLG's aphromoo and Albus Nox Luna's support Likkrit. And you saw the rest of the matches there on the schedule.
Yeah, why don't I get to be the guest today?
Why not?
Oh, yeah, I'm the guest. Put me in there.
You can be the guest? All right, sure. Guest Zyrene. What do you make of the support matchup here?
Looks like Likkrit is 3 times better in the DPM department. Absolutely insane. That's what we were talking about. And you can see Likkrit's champion pool is just really aggressive champions, does a lot of damage there. But I swear his Bard needed a lot of work. His engages were not on point.
It's interesting when you look at Likkrit's champion pool. He's got the Brand and the Bard as his 2 primary options, but if you take them both away, he doesn't always default to Zyra. It is one of his most played, but coming in from the IWC tournament, he was actually playing a lot of Taric, defaulting to a tanky defensive champion, which felt a little bit abstract for him, given the scenario of what he actually plays otherwise.
Yeah, it's probably the hair. It has a lot of similarities. No,
he's not wearing the black robe today either. I heard that's a thing with Likkrit. He is literally a real-life warlock.
He's a wizard.
Yeah.
He actually wears a black robe wherever he goes, and Has to wear, of course, some Albus Nox Luna gear on stage. Of course, it's regulation.
Has that reduced his stats, do you think? Do you think he
probably
has
a little bit less comfortable?
Yeah, okay. I feel that. So what do you actually expect to see out of here? Do you think there's going to be a brand ban as a respect ban once again coming out here? And then do you think there'll be a deny of the Bard? Of course, he's facing aphromoo in this match, and then he'll have to go elsewhere.
I mean, I think there will definitely be a brand and a Bard banned from either side of the Rift, and it does really hurt your soul to say this because we're highlighting the players where they're going to receive a lot of bans. So looking past that, what we might see is going to be a lot of lane focus from what is not going to be a Bard on the side of Likkrit, and a lot of potential roaming from aphromoo. Even when he's not on the Bard, he does like to get around and help his team. Between him and Xsmithy, they place a lot of the vision that CLG rely upon.
Yeah, I think the champion select, if you are banning some supports out, you do leave up things like the Syndra, like the Cassiopeia, and CLG on blue side. I know they're very comfortable first picking a Syndra for themselves, and that might be something we have to look out for here. And junglers will also be on the table, like Nidalee and Graves, and also Rek'Sai.
Do you think the playstyle will change as well from the supports? If you are taking like these big hypey picks away from Likkrit, he'll actually just stay in lane, because we know from Likkrit, he will just leave lane, and then his ADC will just have to 1v2. Do you think he'll actually like stay down there if he's pushed on a pick like Taric, for example?
This is something that we've seen from RNG, and it's actually really cool to highlight that fact, is that RNG will adapt the way they play the lane, and if they even play the lane, dependent on what they're actually playing. So the Alistar was an aggressive decision where they bought boots first, disappeared from the lane, and started roaming around, but you put him on something like the Nami, he would just hug Uzi and just try and help the AD carry be as big as possible and let them carry. I expect to see the draft reflect how they want to play the map out.
And we are getting into said draft with CLG and Albus Nox Luna. We have the first couple bans coming through here. Brand is immediately banned against Likkrit, Shen, Vlad, Sivir, and Caitlyn actually aim towards the ADCs.
You have to ban Syndra here, because last ban Vladimir means that you want to pick Syndra first. That's my opinion on it, and now you're going to leave up a whole lot of things here. Don't ban a jungler. I don't think it's worth it, because they're going to first pick a mid laner, or you get Syndra yourself if Kira plays it.
There is still also the Cassiopeia, so depending on how Albus Nox Luna are feeling, they can give the Syndra and just try and do their best against it, and looks like Target is the way to go.
Yeah. Wow, Olaf ban as the final ban, and, well, you called it. First pick, CLG, Syndra coming in there for Huhi. And that leaves it all open for Albus Nox Luna now.
Yeah, it's all target bans from Albus Nox Luna, just kind of whittling down the champion pool of things they don't really want to deal with. They left so much open, though, but the Syndra is definitely that S-tier pick. I think those first picks are like Syndra, Elise, Rek'Sai, all worthy of it. And Albus Nox Luna, of course, they are going to get their hands on some priority picks like the Nidalee, the hard farmer in the jungle.
Yeah, potentially even with the Caitlyn banned, the Lucian is the natural progression, it seems, because it's got decent matchups against most things.
Yeah, I think Stixley is just going to play Jhin, though.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like... And we also have to see the supports come out here, like possibly a Nami for aphromoo. I know he's been on top of that support.
Still Bard available.
And the Bard is still available. Also, the Karma is another one that's available, and I know that CLG love picking Karma. I actually believe their tier list during the season was Karma first, then Bard, and they would prioritize the Karma over it.
In terms of rotation, when do you want to be picking these supports? Because I've heard that like a lot of people are picking Nami as it is very good into like range supports, for example. So is that a priority? Do you want to be using it as a counter pick?
There has been a lot of red side last picks of support, simply because it lets you see the enemy 2v2 lane. The AD carry is always a safe bet, no matter what they're going to be. The support generally changes the pace of the lane or how you play that out. So red side, more often than not, will start looking towards those last rotations. Blue side, exactly where it is there, is where you'll start to see it.
Very interesting. That was very much a mainstay of G2. They were one of the first teams in Europe to actually last pick the support a lot of the time for Miffy. So it seems like the case here. There's the Bard actually lock-in here for CLG, so that'll go down to aphromoo. Kind of expected as a big pick for him, but also denies Likkrit, as we were talking before.
Yeah, and like you were talking about people last picking their support, a lot of that is because not always the AD carry dictates the lane. It's a lot of the support. The support will usually dictate the lane, the type of support, what advantages you have. So you don't usually counter pick AD carries unless it's like something like, oh my god, we have a Caitlyn or Twitch or something like that. But it's really on the support, and that's why in solo queue, support's got to be on their game, right? You can't be complaining, I'm a support, I can't carry. It's like you can carry, you can babysit your laner all day long.
And that's a Tam Kench lock-in. Looking for that Jace as well. So most likely going to go to support there, I guess, for Likkrit, unless they throw it top lane.
Yeah, very big balance shift between both of these lanes now. A lot of poke can come out of the CLG bottom lane. Where you contrast that to the side of Albus Nox Luna, it's the Lucian being the primary source of damage, and Tahm Kench has a purpose of keeping him up.
Yeah, the Tahm Kench is for mostly actually just devouring the person that Syndra uses ultimate on. You either pick the Tahm Kench or you pick the Braum to do that, and they went with the Tahm Kench here. It's a little bit different than what people are picking at the moment because they believe Braum has a little bit more of a lane presence and teamfight presence, whereas if you are a very macro-focused team, you'll go for the Tahm Kench. But we haven't seen him much this tournament at all.
It's cool when you look at how the draft has actually progressed here, the way CLG have executed this by picking the Bard early. Means that you know Likkrit won't go for the Bard. He seems to have a lacking champion pool afterwards. And the other cool thing about this, when you look at how Albus Nox Luna have drafted, they don't have a lot of crowd control. They're mostly a poke composition, but they've chucked a Lucian in there. So they kind of messed up a bit. And by putting the Tahm Kench with that, being forced into the Tahm Kench to save someone from the Syndra, they lose the opportunity for something like an Alistar that can engage for the team. So this last pick, if it doesn't have engage, means that ANX are going to have a really bad time actually diving or sieging structures if they don't get an advantage early. And CLG are really good at controlling early.
Yeah, CLG just have all around a really good composition. It has wave clear, it has assassination and pick potential. It had a lot of engage with Bard ultimate. Poppy can get in there as well. And then you have the Syndra and the Elise combo, which I think you should never get these two champions on the same team. And I definitely think that this is an oversight here by ANX because those are two of the best CC mid laner and jungler that are in the S tier right now. Rek'Sai, I guess, is the other one, but then other than that, it's like Malzahar for mid lane. It drops down very, very far. And now you just gave them ways to bully your mid lane to catch out low mobility mid laners, and that's going to be a big problem.
So it sounds like you guys are definitely trending towards CLG winning the draft here.
Definitely.
I think there's also, again, if ANX do get ahead early, they've got a Jace in Italy, and Trundle's actually also really useful in situations like that to use the pillar and knock people around. So they have a poke/siege composition. But if they're on the back foot, they'll usually struggle. It's going to be difficult for them to execute on anything if that happens. And that's why we're favoring CLG, because you look at that composition and it's solid all around from start to finish. It's just controlled.
Yeah, but the poke composition, if it gets ahead, then it can snowball really hard and just close out the game. But then it has a timer on it as well, which is kind of the sad part of it is, you know, this Jace, this Nidalee, eventually the Poppy will have enough resistances to deal with it, to stand in the front and not take much damage. And then the whole composition kind of falls apart. Also, their wave clear is a little bit suspect at the moment. It's the Lucian who's going to be doing a bit of work for them. And then the Jace has it's just circular wave clear. It's not actually linear wave clear like a Varus Q. So Jace does suffer in that department. So they're going to have to look for a little bit more.
How well do you think Albus Nox Luna is actually going to execute on this composition? Because Likkrit's not on a champion where he's just going to be like yelling and running at people. He's on Tahm Kench, so I guess he can do it. He can still do that, right? Like he just has to go very slowly and then lick them a couple of times. Do we actually expect that from Likkrit? He'll just take Tahm Kench and just run at people?
There is a lot of unpredictability behind Likkrit, and this is one of the few things that makes him stand out as a support here, even at Worlds, is you never actually know what he's thinking, and that's why he's such a good Bard player.
Yeah.
He's very creative with what he does, when he does it, and even how he executes on these strategies. So the Tahm Kench may just level 1, sit in the bush and try and cheese, or stop them from doing a camp, and that's the first thing we have to look towards, is how they're actually going to start in this bottom lane.
So it's a case of, you can't read me if I don't know what I'm doing.
Pretty much, yeah. Put the blindfold on and just like fire in random directions with your tongue.
Let's see if that's the case in the bottom lane. Likkrit starting out with the refillable potion and the relic shield in the bottom lane. Is that standard for TK?
Yeah. Refillable potion, not so much because you're usually taking biscuits.
Yeah.
But it just means that I guess he's going to try to invest a lot of his gold into upgrading items as opposed to potions on his way back. And that just seems to be a Likkrit thing. He actually has one of the lowest sightstone times for his region, which just means that he's buying Frost Queen's Claim like before even getting a Sightstone, and he does stuff like that. So,
and that's very much a regional thing in general, right? None of them usually buy a Sightstone before upgrading their support item to at least the second tier of it. Likkrit just seems to be a bigger offender out of all of the big offenders within that region.
I mean, when you're getting 3 kills as Brand, you just need to kill people. You don't need to see them. They're just dead.
Again, level 1, Tahm Kench, if he starts with the Devour, does about 360 damage, I think, to the Gromp. So they're able to take it down extremely quickly. I expected CLG to want to stop them from doing it. As you would say is standard, perhaps against a Tahm Kench and a Lucian, who'll do it quickly. aphromoo too slow to actually even react there means they get an advantage.
Yeah. There's some crazy stuff going on the other side of the map, though. Like, look at that blue buff. It's just been, they're trading back and forth. They're trying to stop the jungle camp from Xmithy. And I actually believe the bottom lane would probably hit level 2 first for Likkrit. And ooh!
Shock blast of that
Nice,
connector. That would have dropped him super low. But Huhi was definitely on the receiving end of that trade. Bot lane,
This is like
pushing in.
Just switch to jungle focus. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're changing the stream, boys. Stayhos is, he wants to get out of there.
Well, I think he has to actually back the out of potions. Maybe he does red buff and smites it, but otherwise I think he just has to. I think he has to back, yeah. This Nidalee, it's going to be 3 minutes, and he's still going to be level 1.
I think the important thing to note here as well is Likkrit is undefeated on Tahm Kench over 1 game, so he does have that over aphromoo at least here.
It's a large sample size. I'll take it. I'll draw large conclusions from one
We're coming back to
sample.
like,
That's how it works,
right?
INTZ, best team in the world. You know?
Confirmed after day 1.
Anyway, the way that the wave is going right now, we'll talk a little bit more micro at the moment, is they actually got the push going on ANX's side, but so they have to push it all the way in. And if they want to, they can just bully underneath turret a little bit, throw some tongue lashes, get some harass going. And now it'll actually slow push back towards them if they allow it to. But it will if they do that, CLG hits level 3 on both of them first.
So ANX just moving up here with their duo lane. Like, you generally don't see them just like move as a group. What are they looking for there?
That looked like fake warding to me.
No, well, they warded the tri-brush, and then they fake warded the river.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as in, like, where the Scuttle Crab currently is, they're showing that they have vision near the area. They don't actually. But look at Aphromoo's immediate response. This is where the jungle clear goes towards the mid lane / the Scuttle Crab and enemy blue buff.
Oh.
And they have to assume it's warded, so he's walked the long way around to invade.
Yeah, so Aphromoo is actually going to check the jungle because they know that this Nidalee has an
But they're
incredibly
collapsed
slow
upon here.
jungle
Like,
path.
this was completely read by Likkrit.
Yeah, Likkrit is actually doing a pretty good job here, but they're gonna let them go. I don't think they're gonna stop this at all. Likkrit's just actually helping him do the Gromp, get the smite down, and take it. And now, Magical Journey gets through, and they're not punishing this. So, yeah. And as soon as they saw the blue buff on Stayhos, you see Xmithy immediately goes for his red. So they're just trying to prey off of the fact that he had to back early. And Likkrit's going to try to keep Aphromoo out of the lane for a bit. Oh, that's crazy. He went for 2 points in Q and none in E.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some Tahm Kenchers do this. Some actually even just go to Grey Health at 2 if they're looking to harass.
Well, the Grey Health at 2 is a lot about efficiency of trades. For example, if I hit your Lucian and I do 80 damage to him, then that's 80 damage that's going to stick. It's not 80 damage I'm doing to minions that's going to push it. If I hit Tahm Kench, it's actually the worst trade I could possibly do because that's not 80 damage. That's going to be like 60 damage versus a support because he just regens a little bit of it back. So it's all about efficiency when people actually get that Grey Health at level 2.
It's counterintuitive almost on how Likkrit has been playing this out. His itemization, I'm going to say, is a little bit too greedy as well.
Yeah.
Because it's the refillable potion, you don't have as much sustain. You're actually in a lane with just the Relic Shield for the heal that you can provide. And it's a Bard Ezreal that actually poke-focused lane, which means relative to how these trades go, whilst it looks like Albus Nox Luna have been doing well, they get outscaled in the level 1.
Oh, yeah.
From laning phase till the next recall.
Exactly, and you don't have the potions to continue trading back and forth, like you said. A refillable is much less effective. And the Bard, I mean, he just walks up and hits you and Qs you, and then Thunderlords goes off. So you're losing trades right off the bat, and now he's just losing them even more because it's a range versus melee support matchup in the first place.
As we're talking about this matchup, we do have a question from Twitter. Remember, you can tweet at us using hashtag AskTheCasters, and we will answer them on air as we can. Michael D. Whaley 2 says, how do you think the matchup between TK and Bard is going to go? Does Bard have to double stun to guarantee a kill?
I don't think necessarily. I think one of the coolest things that you can do as a Bard player is if they are running away and the Tahm Kench eats the Lucian, right before he lets him go, you throw the Q out, and you'll be able to stun both of them because the Q actually cheats a little bit from Bard. It has a detect range, but the detect range is not necessarily in a straight line. It has a little bit of a cone, a little bit of a wider radius. That's why you'll hit, like, if he threw a Q at Likkrit there, it would probably stick him to the wall diagonally for no reason. You're just like, what?
Right.
Why? It checks for walls all around, and it checks for people all around, so it'll do stuff like that. It's actually pretty good. So I don't think he has to double stun to guarantee a kill, but, I mean, it's like a Tahm Kench support is not as hard to kill as it was before, right?
I mean, like, to get a kill against the Tahm Kench, doesn't necessarily need the double stun, but if you just stun the Lucian, Tahm Kench will be able to run away with him in his mouth, and then you won't have the stun.
I guess that's
available.
probably what he's asking.
What I'm thinking is, like, yes, it actually makes sense that for the best case scenario and best outcome or most efficient trade, you should be double stunning, but you can still just stun the Lucian to a minion, which is a more accessible and realistic stun, and then just take them down and do damage. If I was the Bard, I would be trading every time Thunderlords is available, poking from distance, and then double stun if you can to commit for an all-in.
See what aphromoo doing right here? Is he's actually faking over and over again that he's either warding or that he can use Magical Journey to get the jungler in. So when you don't see the Bard in lane, you have to like ping your mid laner, be like, hey, you know, he's not here, and then you do that over and over again. You don't know if he's warded or not. It's actually pretty cool that what you can do with fake knowledge that you're giving to your opponent and saying like, hey, he's gone, he's warding, well, he's not, and then he's brings the jungler in the next time, right? And if you keep doing that, like you'll be like, oh, this guy faked us last time, but you have to respect it every time, because if you're like, oh, he fake did that, whatever, jungler's not actually there, then the time the jungler's actually there, you get killed and you lose the game.
The mind games are really interesting in support matchups. Like I remember the old one was like Thresh with the lance and he'd throw it back, and then maybe a jungler there. There might not. How much to do with it is like timings, for example, because we saw like the bot lane from ANX, of course, go up the river, and then they like went actually to where they would ward and go back. Do like as a support, would you be like counting the seconds and being like, ah, yeah, he probably went here, and then seeing them again?
You usually kind of think about where they possibly could be based on the time that they've been missing, and how long it's taken them to get back, like the fake warding in the river, right? But yeah, you usually track that, and you also track abilities too. Like if he uses the Thresh Lantern, like you were talking about, that was really good. Likkrit just showed up. They're probably gonna kill Hoogie here. They got both summoners too.
Yeah, that's really good. Likkrit's in trouble, however.
Hey, it's got flash.
Flash, then. Yep.
If Stixxay chases, then Stixxay might die.
There you go.
Oh, look at that.
See, that's
what a cheater!
Yeah, from aphromoo, that stun has no reason to be connecting.
It's got no business being there.
He was dead anyway, but aphromoo shows why the Bard champion can be interesting with his Q.
Yeah, it's very forgiving.
Yeah.
Very forgiving.
It hurts. It actually just really hurts to watch.
Oh, we got to see it again.
Gonna see that replay. So,
but yeah, you can see Likkrit's not there, and this is actually very unusual because it was a CLG back. They had their Bard and their Ezreal back, and they kept their Lucian in lane. So Likkrit, maybe they thought he was back or something, but that's something that you shouldn't actually be going for, because you have a lower combat stats because you just had the 80 carry and support back on the enemy team. But they caught Hoogie in a very swift motion, and it was much faster. Yeah. Oh, whoa, what's going on top?
Likkrit's dead, apparently.
He used his ult again.
Did he ulti behind the turret?
His ult's down, so I have to assume yes.
I mean, when you asked if he was going to run at people, I guess it still holds true.
That is a very Likkrit thing to do.
Yeah, now you know that he's by himself bottom, hit the turret, go for Miracle, auto attack into Q.
He didn't get the stun off, though.
No, there was no opportunity to get the stun off because he altered the turret.
So there's nothing to glue him to.
Yeah, and he had to kind of try and hit an angle where the turret would then be present for it.
Oh, baby. It was all a setup.
Yep. Really well played there.
That was pretty classy.
Yeah, they got both summoner spells out of him too, so it's just so much there. They lost that top lane. Yeah, he ultis behind.
Top lane.
It's just Xmithie with a really good timing here. Hits Smurf in turret range, so he takes an extra one. Really good smash against the wall, so he's stunned and can't gray health. So,
Likkrit threw himself at them to save his top lane.
Yeah, he wasn't just going ham, so team player right here. What was he doing in the top side of the map in the first place, though? Like, at this stage in the game, when you're 10 minutes into the game, do you want to be with your ADC, or is it just, like, fine to get out?
So the way Likkrit works, he's actually one of the few supports that'll always do this recall. When you placed all of your Sidestone wards down, remember they just fought on the bottom side and he just died, so just flashed out, sorry, to safety, so he was going to be in base. He immediately looks at the minimap, says, where should I be? Because I don't need to be bottom, and why should I be there? Knows that top is fighting, assumes as well, I'm guessing through team communication and vision, that the top side of the map is where Xmithie is going to be, and reacts accordingly with his ultimate to be in there to save them. But just because he was in range to use the ultimate, it's really good foresight from Likkrit, because it's not a long range at level 1.
Yeah, it's something that supports are doing a whole lot. Oh, that was weird. He like tongue to the side and still got him.
Wow, actually just going to drop right there as well.
CLG versus wildcard teams, you know. It happens. Yeah, it happens.
Great devour as well.
Yeah, it was a really good devour there. But yeah, what I was saying with the supports, your backs, you don't always run straight to lane. If you think that there's a really good opportunity to either ward in the pink ward in the pixel brush in the river, or you gank mid or you gank top, like I talked with some challenger supports, and they absolutely love like almost any champion. Like I know a Janna main who does it. He's like, second back, I run straight top, but I run like the weirdest way possible, where you go through your red jungle and then you go up through the river, as opposed to like a tri-brush gank, and you can pretty much kill people rather unexpectedly. And also, if you do that gank towards mid, where you run through your red side jungle, or you run through, I guess if you're red side, or pretend I'm red side, pretend I'm A and X, you run through your red side jungle and you gank middle from the top part, that's usually the lesser warded part, because you're warding with your support on the bottom side of the map, and you're warding with your top laner, or sorry, your mid laner on the bottom side of the map. So your top side is usually black.
And for a bit of context as well, the second back can be around the 7-minute mark. If you time it well, that's actually the exact same time that the enemy jungler will be on the bottom side of the map if you're Albus Nox Luna, because they want the red buff. So that means that you're actually in an area where there should be 0 wards there, unless there's a old pink ward remaining from the enemy mid laner, and it means that you do have a free way in.
Like, I encourage everybody who's like a solo queue support to try that once, to go to the mid lane from the top part, because it's rather unexpected. People usually never ward there, and if they do, then why are they warding there? It's one of those things where it's like, we could have just roamed up from bottom to make the same play. So I definitely encourage everybody to try it and see how easy it actually is to pull off.
What type of setups do you need for a play like that, though? Because in solo queue, if you just like leave lane as support, then your ADC is going to be like yelling about it.
Yeah, you just gotta tell your AD carry to chill for a second. That's pretty much it, because like, your AD carry and you are backing at the same time, so he'll hit lane at about the same time that you end up going to that mid lane. So it'll be pretty much the same timing, and he shouldn't be in too much trouble, but he does have to play a little bit on the back foot. Like we saw that dive happen with aphromoo sticks A. So you just have to time it better and not die like Likkrit did.
Yeah, I just ping my missing like 2 or 3 times on top of them, so that they
or 5
hopefully
times,
see it. Yeah, maybe 5. But then if I'm playing with my mid laner as well, I like to communicate where their pink wards are going to go and where. So if they can place one on top side, it's obviously going to be much more accessible for you to do. So again, it depends on who you're playing with, and if you're a solo hero, like I am as well in solo queue, I like to just pick a lane and hope that it's not warded, and if it's not, then just go there a few times till it works.
So there's nothing specific you need to do with like the wave, for example,
Yeah,
so
you
it's
can
not
watch
just
the wave.
frozen at the enemy tower and the
Then you
ADC
don't
doesn't get anything.
Then you don't do it. You have to watch
Okay.
the wave and see where it is. I think you chase Smithy through that. I don't know. Oh wait. Oh.
No way.
What it? Likkrit. It could have been beautiful.
You wanted him to flash
I wanted
out
him to
of the
flash
journey, right?
W him
Grab him
out of
out,
it.
yeah.
Like
Some of the interactions with the Bard Porter is amazing. We have a Poppy in this game as well who can just like knock him out if he's on the enemy team.
Yeah, I think if you just W as well.
You can
stops him.
actually eat somebody when you get knocked away and bring them with you to safety. So the best thing you'll see from potentially Tahm Kench this game is eating somebody to save them and flashing into the Poppy ult to ensure that they both go flying to freedom.
Really hope we see that.
I hope so as well. It's the greatest.
And that's the cool thing about both of these supports, really. A lot of unique interactions are available, one offensively with the ultimate, even defensively. And the Tahm Kench, the exact same thing. Double usage of their kits. It's not as defined.
Oh, nice damage there with the culling. We have one more question from Twitter coming in from Camden Door, who says, is Braum or Kench more defensive in the early game? I guess you can change that question a little bit to what roles they perform in the early game.
I will like to explicitly answer this question. Braum is more defensive because he can play defensively. If you ever catch a Tahm Kench running away from you, the Tahm Kench is losing the lane. So that's the way that that lane actually plays out in comparison. Braum can be more excessively defensive in the early game. If Tahm Kench is, he loses. He should be going forwards and harassing them.
Yeah, Smithy shows up in the bottom side of the map as well to try and shove this in because they saw the jungler on the top side. And so that's going to be first turret going down here, and there's not really much you can do about this if you're ANX. And lane phase is over now at the 16-minute mark.
Lane phase is over on the bottom side anyway.
Yeah,
and
that's
a
true.
Big lead that the Ezreal's actually accrued over time here.
And this is where it gets really cool for the Tahm Kench and the Bard players when they get to start roaming more actively and roam around the map and try to hit people with their ultimate and create plays. And he's going to try to do exactly that right here.
He's also walking through areas where CLG have no vision, and he knows that he does. So now he's confirmed that no one knows he's there, and the decision from Likkrit is obviously to rotate towards the top side.
Yeah, that's where they're winning as well. That top lane and in that jungle and mid area is where they have these advantages. So it looks like he's just shoving it out, backing inside of the bush. You still have to respect where the Tahm Kench could possibly be unless you see him. So you have to spend about 2-3 seconds waiting for that.
Often at this stage of the game as well, you see like the support just leave the ADC and then go elsewhere. What's the decision making behind like where he wants to be? Is it just generally follow like the bulk of your team, or does that change up on like composition, etc.?
So you need to, yeah, it does kind of change all the time, but you need to address the situation right now. So as an example, Ezreal's going to be pushing bottom lane. Lucian should be able to collect that wave. So the first thing Likkrit should do is place Vision like a pink ward to ensure that he's safe.
Other
Or
ganking.
apparently just push him out of lane entirely. The point still stands. Push him out of lane, try and secure safety for a Miracle so that he can then roam if need be. But if aphromoo and Stixxay are here or the jungle pressure is here, then he has to stay. So it's first step, find out where everybody is so that your AD carry is safe. Second step, decide where the next best move is going to be. If he does leave the Lucian to his own devices, which it feels like now, the answer is work with Staios, go towards the lane where CLG are pressuring, and perhaps the objectives that they're looking to control, which is the Drake.
Yeah, Drake about to be up as well. And you can see aphromoo is already on top of this. This is a place you don't usually expect the enemy support to be. It's already on your side. So completely off guard there.
Likkrit just trying to get out now. Damage control really for ANX. And that was, a lot of that was vision as well. So is that on like the supports to be securing now, or is that like a team effort right now?
That was in part a team effort. It was actually really weird pathing from Staios. They didn't check that area. And that means that the Jace didn't place a ward there early enough or to spot them, or that Nidalee was too defensive and actually just positioned too forwards. There was nothing that Likkrit could have done to save him, but a team mistake capitalized on with really good vision control from
Whoa. That was actually pretty sick. Darshan charged at Smurf, Darshan charged at Kira, and Smurf put up a pillar and it actually blocked the Poppy from stunning him. That was really cool.
There's also the unfortunate counter interaction where Smurf can put up a pillar and Darshan can stun someone on it.
Yep.
Unlucky.
Given the old setup. Also Likkrit getting a really nice Devour off and getting the double value out of the splash there as well. And aphromoo hovering around just collecting chimes. Brings me to one of the questions from Twitter from Garlic Tweets, who says, as a bard, how much value do you get going around collecting chimes, and how far out of your way do you go for them?
So chimes are really good at the start of the game for sure, because I mean, it's a lot about the extra experience they give you, and so you can hit level 2 a little bit earlier. And I want to see actually what Likkrit does here, because he still has his exhaust, he still has his ultimate. Like, you could chase right now with your ultimate if you want to actually go for it. Like, put somebody in the back line. Let's go, let's go. Likkrit, go!
That's pretty ballsy if he does that.
I mean, he still has exhaust, right? So it's not like you end up in a really, really bad situation. I think you could even, like, 2v3 at that point. Especially with the HP bars they have. Like, I would ulti right now at the end of that bar. It's not my kind of support. Oh, that's really good. Darshan's dead.
Yeah, good moves from Elvis Noxlin. I think patience-wise, yeah, they could have been more aggressive.
Yeah.
But this is a world stage as well, Zyrene. Remember that they'll take the safe option.
That's true. Anyway, so to answer the Bard Chime one, very important at the start of the game. If you can get to them, you get level 2 earlier. Later on, they aren't as important. You don't go too far out of your way to do it. When you're roaming, if they just so happen to be there in your warding paths and stuff like that, then you definitely pick them up. So you don't really go too far out of your way, because they can change your timings on where you're going to be.
I think the same thing as Tahm Kench roaming applies here with the Bard, right? Like, it's good to get, it's actually more efficient for a Bard to roam and get these things done. Speaking of roaming and getting things done.
Yeah, getting into the jungle now of Albus Nox. I want to go back to that team fight. We're going to get a replay in a second, but Likkrit, Zyrene, you were talking about him being like more aggressive. Like, what is his goal there in that team fight? Are you always wanting to use your abilities defensively?
So you're waiting for Huhi to ulti halfway through this fight. So that's actually not a good W there, because you should have been able to W Miracle there. I don't think Jace was in any more threat. So you have to be using your Devour on the person that Syndra is ultiing to save them. And it could have been an even better team fight there. And yeah,
that was a good Devour there.
Yeah, that was good.
It's always a big question you have to raise. Do I save someone when it's going to be kill damage, or do I save them from just taking damage? And I think in that situation, he didn't save Jace from the kill, but it was also not the wrong thing to do, because he wasn't aware that someone else on his team was going to get himself thrusted into a Syndra 2 seconds later, and that is not entirely Likkrit. It's more his team's decision afterwards, not knowing that he didn't have his E.
Yeah, I didn't actually know how much threat Kuro was in after that point. I feel like he did it a little bit late if he was going to do it. That was kind of my beef with it. But if there was incoming damage, then definitely, yeah.
We get
Step
to
on
see
the
support
Coco.
combat.
Nope.
Oh, ult onto both.
They should kill aphromoo.
They tried to go on a Miracle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, what's he doing?
Yeah, Miracle should turn, hit it. Now you should go forward. Boom.
What are they doing?
Explain to me.
They are feeding the wild card.
Explain to me what should have happened there, Rusty.
Afro had his magical journey up available like a while back, so he should have used the journey earlier to position himself behind the Ezreal so that he could assist and hit stuns more effectively. Instead, he walks in between Likkrit and a Miracle like it's going to assist, and what it actually does is get him focused instead. Nidalee already had the reach and was able to get a flank on, so a big mistake, honestly, from the Bard. Yeah. Because he's a fragile champion, right? He's one of the few champions that'll always go towards the AP start. Didn't go for Ruby Sightstone, so missing a bit of extra health. And all around, fragile, doesn't respect that he can die, and does.
Is he getting a Frozen Heart?
Iceborne Gauntlet.
An Iceborne Gauntlet.
Absolutely.
Iceborne Gauntlet, Frozen Heart. Believe also Zeke's goes into it.
Yeah, usually go Banner of Command if you're going Iceborne Gauntlet.
Get yourself
as well.
a Zix Herald, you know?
We'll see. I think you can leave it at that.
Man,
so
nobody got that it was their coach? Come on.
all right, mate.
Jeez.
All right.
Come on.
All right, there's a replay of the last fight. So the ult landed onto two
right
people
there. He
right
should
here,
be
so that
magical
should be good,
journeying
right?
through this wall already.
Yeah, so he walks next to Likkrit, which means he just turns around. By the way,
Starts
Grasp of
licking
the
him.
Undying. Yeah, eats him, makes sure that he dies. And the movement from a Miracle and all of Albus Nox Luna was actually good. They disregarded aphromoo, who didn't have anything available, and then just turned around and give him one pop and leave. Big mistake, and I agree. Yep, Magical Journey should have been used more effectively there from the Bard, but such is the nature of the champion. You have to do everything perfectly, otherwise there's no value in being the Bard over something else.
Yeah. There was also a few moments in this game where aphromoo, he could have thrown out his Tempered Fate and gotten at least a flash or possibly a kill. There was a moment at the Dragon where the one where they were in the bush and they had just picked off Stejos, and then he magical journeyed through the wall and was right next to Likkrit. Likkrit had nobody around him. If he had actually thrown out his ultimate there, he probably gets Likkrit's flash, or they get a kill because you know that Syndra is right there next to you as well. So I feel like aphromoo not throwing them out enough for my liking, especially with the fact that he has some early CDR in his build.
Got some posturing around mid lane. aphromoo clearing out wards as well for the team. So, another ult coming through. Didn't really land on anyone.
That was good timing on the gate, though.
It's a good Jace. Yeah, it's a good gate to throw it off. Otherwise, it would have hit.
Do you always want to be throwing your ult from like Fog of War from Bard, or is it just like you see someone out of position and just like insta-snap?
It's more out of position than it is Fog of War. Of course, there's a slight edge that you get if you throw it from a flank or a different angle that's unpredictable, as Likkrit's a little bit out of position here. Very actually.
Doesn't really have too many ways out here, but he gets to walk out because of the pillar, and now somebody has to block the cocoon for him. Yeah, get right in there, Smurf.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, that was a mistake from CLG after Likkrit made one. It's working out for him.
Stun onto Smurf, and someone went flying. Stejos is all the way at the back. This is a mess on two fronts.
Yeah, 6A got a really good flank in this fight, and you don't expect that 80 carry to actually be the one flanking. But he showed up in the back. He has the completed Muramana and the Manamune.
Bit of trouble here, Stejos.
Was ANX forced into that position because Likkrit was originally caught and then people had to get out of position to try and save him? Or was it them just over-investing and trying to save him?
Yeah, they recommitted. They got out, and then everybody went back in, and it was kind of a bad call there from ANX on the second half of it.
But again, out of position simply because they're trying to establish control around the Drake area. They haven't spotted Xmitty, so keep that in mind. Was able to put down a lot of damage with Darshan. They only really knew where aphromoo was as a 100% feature. The reason Likkrit lives is because Huhi and Afro decide that they want to try and kill the Jace.
Yeah.
This gives them the opportunity to run away here, you would expect, but a little bit of overcommitment from them, unfortunately.
Jace has no business walking back into this. Stix just blows him up.
And good aphromoo stun as well.
Yeah, aphromoo stun. And yeah, it was pretty much a scattered fight. You saw that all of CLG were grouped up as a 5-man ball, and then ANX saw that as an opportunity. And speaking of opportunity, that's real nice.
Wow, Baron just went down.
Actually,
press your recall.
I actually want to see how they did that, because I think they all went over the wall. I think Likkrit used his ulti to get in there, and I think everybody else went over the wall as well.
Yeah, he has no ulti. The Trundle is the only one that Or no, Jace can't as well.
Yeah.
You can eat someone. So you can ult with one person, eat someone over the wall.
Over the wall.
Let's get that.
There are actually some walls that you can eat people over and spit them out over too.
Yep.
Not always spit them out. Sometimes you just shove them right into the wall.
Yeah,
but
like Dragon Wall, for example.
Yeah, I know that you can. Talia wall is too thick to eat people from, but you can throw people over it.
Nidalee pounce.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's the Jace that comes in that teleports the Trundle. So that is a sneaky Baron. Note that a Miracle still walks through areas where there could be vision instead of going around, so lazy, but hey.
Smurf, kind of out of position.
Yeah, I think it's
because
everybody's here. But bottom side of the map is where CLG are going to try to look to get an advantage, and they have mid lane shove, so actually getting more from this.
Yeah, and Baron buff. Jace by himself will take a turret as it is. These three with the Baron buff should be in enough control to get stuff done, and Likkrit will be able to save anybody that gets caught if the Poppy goes in or if the Syndra goes in. And they both dodged it, so this is just huge. Big mistake.
Yeah, it's actually an oversight. They tried to commit too much for that. Nobody was answering Kira, and they lose 3 turrets for 1.
Jace coming down as well. So yeah, big advance there to Albus Nox. In the team fight that we saw just before that Baron happened, I got the stat that Likkrit actually had done more damage in the game than a Miracle. Is that a normal thing for a Tamkench over a Lucian? I'm going to say no, but...
No, but it's a normal thing for Likkrit over a Miracle, which is weird.
Stixxay, now they're getting TP'd on. I feel...
They're committing.
Now you turn on to the TP if it goes through. Okay.
Good TP, though.
Yeah.
As a deterrence feature and the rest of CLG able to rotate. The problem is he doesn't have TP now. And it's still a Baron buffed enemy.
Yeah. It was his advantage, though, because Smurf doesn't have his either. And there really isn't an objective on the map that you can really split push for. It's not like you can push bottom and be like, oh, I have TP over this guy, so you can 4v5 Baron. Otherwise, it would be a really big problem that he had used the teleport, but it was actually good to save the life of Stixxay.
Talking about like globals and stuff, like what's the use of like Tamkench's ultimate at this stage in the game? Are you looking for flanks with it? Are you just using to rotate?
I think we've seen a lot of usage of Tamkench explicitly for flanks with the ulti. It's really good to catch people out of position. So let's just say that this isn't all 5 people of CLG in the area and they have 5. You and the tank or you and one of the 2 tanks can go in the back line to kind of cause them to be in a bit of disarray. As long as you're going with someone that won't die, it'll be okay. Don't do what they have done before and bring a Miracle in and just watch him die next to you when the Bard stuns you both coming out together. I think it's very contextual, but definitely trying to catch people inside lanes or with the flanks.
And sending over to aphromoo as well, like, there's a lot of the engage on him in this game in terms of like him looking for that good ultimate, or is he trying to like save it for like mid-fight, or is it generally that initiation tool?
For aphromoo, it kind of goes either way. Because of the fact that CLG has a mixture of engage and pick, I feel like you throw it out if you see a pick, and I don't think you hold it if you see the opportunity. It's basically when it presents itself. But I think you should be throwing it out a little bit more often just so you can get flashes to make the next pick work.
Right.
So the way that this works, especially in this team composition, if Syndra hits a stun, Elise hits a cocoon, or Bard hits the stun or ultimate, they can follow up with the rest, right? So it's a pick composition, and they need to be particular with who they're hitting. They don't want to go on the Trundle. Speaking of, I think Likkrit wants to go over there to him.
Yep, went over to the top side. This is the Rotato Potato over to the top lane. You bring your Jace to the top lane. I mean, you max W second on Jace, so you have that hypercharge and you do so much damage to turrets. It's also an auto attack reset, boosts your damage. It's actually pretty disgusting how much damage he does to turrets.
And now backing off as well. Albus Nox with a pretty significant lead in this game now. Like the 2k on the gold, but like the tower as well. They are behind the dragons. The 2 mountains to CLG is good.
Yeah, so touching back on the glacial
it is
that
Frozen
we saw
Heart,
earlier.
Frozen Heart.
It is Frozen Heart, so no HP to really back it up at the moment, which is a little bit odd. I mean, he has some.
I disagree with it.
Yeah. I feel like the big thing, though, is it's you look at the other team. They only have 1 magic damage dealer. It's like Trundle is all auto attack based. Jace,
Yeah,
Lucian,
The reason I disagree with this, though, is that not only does it not give health, I think he was fine keeping it at a base Glacial Shroud, which is a very efficient item to have for the armor, the cooldown reduction, and mana pool. He could immediately go to something like the Locket or a Kindle Gem to at least have more efficient cooldown reduction with it that also gives him health. I don't like that he's gone towards this. Even if you take what the passive is of the Frozen Heart, reducing attack speed, Jace doesn't care about that. Lucian double taps anyway by spell weaving. The only thing you're stopping then is perhaps the Trundle from actually killing someone, but he has an attack reset with his Chomp. It's actually just not a good decision
really
in my
like it.
opinion.
Yeah. I understand why he went for it, but I don't feel like it's effective like you said. So as soon as I saw the Glacial, it was still, this is like immediately like, I don't know what he's doing with it. You said, bro, you said Iceborne Gauntlet.
Absolutely, get in there.
That'd be crazy. That'd be like, I'm snowballing bar. That's solo queue right there.
That's a build I would go for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm a massive cheeser.
I even feel like Randuin's may have even been better. For like about the same price.
Gives the health as well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's enough damage coming out of the Nidalee to warrant an Aegis at the very least for his team. So again, I think he should have went Glacial Shroud into an Aegis and then decide...
Banner of Command, actually.
Yeah, Banner of Command, or just go for the Locket, because it still gives extra cooldown reduction with the Aegis.
But the Banner of Command! I know aphromoo actually loves Banner of Command.
And Proto Belt.
Helps him split push, yeah.
So going back to the early game just a little bit, we have a question on Twitter. At Ginny Woe says, how do you minimize the damage that you take as Tam when behind in a lane against an oppressive range support like Bard?
So the way that you minimize the damage that you take is you understand which champion is. Like, I think Karma is a really good champion to lane against as Tom to learn this. Is oh, hold on.
Yeah, holding that for a second, yeah. Someone was gonna die. Likkrit just trying to save Kira now, but he'll get the flash up. He's gonna be probably the sacrificial catfish here, I feel.
And he's turning on to Stixay.
I'm going down fighting.
He knew he was in trouble, so going forwards, I actually think his best case scenario there was to turn golden and just try and live for a little bit longer. Instead of dodging the ultimate at all.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Karma's a really good champion to learn kind of Tahm Kench against because it's an oppressive lane, but Karma has to decide between hitting you with a Q or hitting the minion wave with Q. So you actually don't stand behind your minion wave when you play against Karma. You stand off to the side because if she's Qing you, she's not Qing the minion wave and she's not fast pushing that wave for her AD carry. So every time she hits you, it's actually ineffective, so you have to make them choose. And against Bard, it's kind of the same thing. You stay off to the side, you don't stay near your AD carry, and then you have to be able to actually close the distance to him if he does get jumped in on and stuff like that with the W, but you don't end up staying.
Whoa.
That's actually really good. They're probably going to win this team fight off of that.
Stayhouse is going in.
Deep.
Oh, no,
yeah,
too deep. Pull out, up
Ready for the Jace.
But Smurf's got this, right?
Kira coming. Oh, misses the shock blast. He'll jump in, but this is messy. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Take the portal. What, Darshan's still here? Okay.
Backwards.
That was a good Bard ulti, actually. It zoned a miracle
away. Lick to the back of the head.
Now, Darshan is out because there's no follow-up, but that was a really big play, actually, from Afro. He does die for it, at least saves Darshan.
So that's just to, like, split them up, right? So they're not both together as they're running at them? Because a lot of people will be like, hey, he missed.
They took so much turret damage here. Afro gets aggro afterwards. It's because the magical journey put them on the right side, so they had to walk through the entire base to get there. Who he takes damage to. Then Kira opens up on him. So Miracle, oh man, that flash from aphromoo to try and stop this. But this is really good from Likkrit, because right here, there's like, they're all dead now, right? Because PvP Stayhouse is going to be able to finish everybody off. Misses a point blank.
It was flashed as well.
And a flash too. Oh, the point blank spear, I don't believe was flashed.
No, the flash pounce that he did was dashed out of. To me, the biggest problem was actually his combo. It's a small detail, but what you do is you dash in, use your swipe before you execute with the Q. I think that would have immediately killed the Ezreal.
The swipe is a point and click, and it doesn't matter about the cast time.
Yeah.
It's auto reset as well.
I guess for those that don't know, you can channel spells so that you press more than one, it'll stack them up and it'll use them all when possible.
Yeah, you queue them up.
I just have a small micro question about Bard portals, because even in professional play, we sometimes see those funky Bard portals that go like 1 inch.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be like putting your cursor? Like the end of the terrain, or does it really matter? We might have to hold that question as we have a team fight here, which you want to take a look through.
Afro is trying to zone Miracle and Kira away, but because they got pushed out, this means it's a really good start for ANX if they get killed, because look at the bottom lane of CLG.
Yeah, they're actually completely split off though, and now it looks like the rest of the team needs him. I think actually Likkrit, it'll be good to watch him in this fight because I think he actually plays this fight really well. It's Tahm Kench. And this is good too. So now he's going to get a tongue and a slow.
Oh, no!
Now we're playing a delicate game because CLG's bottom lane has shown up.
And they're still full health with all resources. Never mind, aphromoo is caught.
Yeah, and now acceleration gate. Oh, now they just turn on the Baron. It's Oh, it's still risky.
They
but it'll work.
can. One good Trundle pillar will probably secure them the kill onto the Ezreal if he does this, and Likkrit's waiting for him because Ezreal will naturally pivot upwards to try and flank to put damage down.
He gave himself away. Oh, he's just gonna hold him.
Lucian will dash over.
Oh, if he had gotten that Baron, that would have been ridiculous.
Accurate in-game sound effects there from Zyra.
Man, I get excited, man, every time the Lucian.
Man, we brought you in as a last-minute substitution. I was like, he's Lina, Greener, Zyrina, and like now you're just coming out with these things. I'm just like, bring that back.
You didn't say that. I would have loved if you said that.
So again, you wanted to highlight Likkrit. Watch the way he plays this.
He's right on top of Huhi, and Huhi can't do anything when he has this guy on top of him. He gets to eat Huhi, throw him into his team. Now he gets to slow Darshan after the Trundle pillar, and you can see Smurf actually pulls off, which I think is a good decision there. And they end up getting the stun on Darshan afterwards, and another Devour. It's just, I feel like Likkrit was played that really well because he got access to Huhi, and that was a little bit of a misplay there from CLG. Because if this really tanky Tahm Kench is running at a Syndra, the Syndra does not want to use her Scatter of the Week on him. She does not want to actually remove him with an R. It's like, this Tahm Kench is just not an efficient target to hit. Because if you hit him, you're probably going to die because somebody else is going to be able to rush your team.
And if you turn around and ult, he'll eat that person instead and still stay on top of you. The Tahm Kench and Bard actually had the same jobs in that last team fight, which is why it's interesting. Because Stixxay and aphromoo got zoned for the first part of it, which is why Albus knocks Luna win, whereas Likkrit was not zoned. He had free reign to hit everybody. And so this actually means they should be readdressing how CLG play this. They should put much more emphasis on ensuring that Huhi stays alive to do damage with Stixxay, and positioning in a 5v5 scenario opposed to being split and getting flanks, because Albus Nox Luna will win these with flanks when Likkrit has free reign.
And to answer your question as well, Pulse, about
I completely forgot. Yeah,
about the Bard portal and where you click. I feel like it's just like skill shots. Like for Jace, if I'm EQing and throwing the acceleration gate Q, I'm putting my cursor for the Q where I want it to land. I'm not having it really close to my person because then those angles actually are magnified. So if I'm aiming like right in front of me, sometimes it actually flies off to the side because you're just like, oh, it's like a 2-degree angle and I couldn't micro it that close.
Speaking of what we said they should be doing, which is keeping Huhi alive.
And going after Stixxay right now, and they almost got him. Darshan's going to drop here. I want to see how Likkrit plays the rest of this because he's been doing really well with his Rs in the second half.
That's big.
Oh, that's awesome.
CLG are going to lose this game.
Yeah, man. I actually think so as well. We talked about the composition from ANX, and it's funny because CLG have been kind of stopping ANX from getting in these positions where they're able to...
they go bottom and they end.
Yeah,
this is why it's clever from Huhi.
I think they just go mid, right?
They had a big wave, so
I mean,
yes,
Likkrit's
they go
in the
mid,
base.
and now Likkrit's job is to keep the Syndra from recalling.
Yeah.
He might kill him, too, if he can get there in time. Get him!
Get in range for the lick.
Throw it at him!
Yeah!
Oh, yeah.
Okay, does he have flash? No.
No, he used it last fight.
He shouldn't have used that W, should have thrown the tongue in.
Oh, man. CLG, a wild card again.
Man,
look at Likkrit.
Taking the win. Likkrit's so happy.
Like, he carried a lot of this game. Like him and Kira, I think, did work this game. Like Stejos was not in the right place. Multiple times he got picked off, and he wasn't respecting the pick comp. And they never actually got into a poke pattern where they're just like sieging a turret with Nidalee and Jace. They actually split pushed a lot with the Jace and the Trundle. And then whenever they grouped up, it was a very swift. Trundle is slowing with pillars. Likkrit is running at them. I think Likkrit played these fights really, really well.
Before this game, Nidalee had a 100% ban rate as well, I believe. So this is why you don't give them Nidalee, even if it's Stejos. He's known as PvE Stejos affectionately, and he farmed the crap out of that jungle. Makes a lot of sense that this works out for ANX, and big performance, honestly, from Likkrit, and I'm glad we highlighted him here, because that was a lot of work done.
Zari, I can see you looking at the damage stats there.
Yeah, he did 300 less damage than Trundle this game. And he's rather close to everybody else in the game. So everybody's about like 18, 17K. He's sitting at 14,000 damage done, and then aphromoo at 10.5. So he outdamaged the other support who's ranged. He ends up doing actually a lot of damage because he has percentage-based damage. So I feel like when you devour somebody mid-game and you throw them out, it's like Darshan as a tank just takes like 500 damage. It's like it's so much damage to deal as a support. But I feel like one of the beautiful things about Tahm Kench is figuring out when I devour one of my teammates and when I devour an enemy, because that's a difficult balance, and you really have to read the situation in the moment.
So Likkrit is regarded as like a good support, right? So why don't like every support in the world just play like Likkrit? Like why don't they just like not buy Sidestone and just go ham every game?
Well, he bought Sidestone that game. He was respectful that game.
There is 5 people in a team, Pulse, and this is where the problem works for Likkrit. If you put him in any other team, they'll probably struggle to win games. It's because this team and his region are sculpted around playing that way. I think being able to do what he doesn't do this on the world stage. He actually went Sightstone first item with his boots and immediately adapts to what is going to be a world's meta, and again plays towards what has to be done, and that's what I like about Likkrit. That's why I think he's good. Yes, he does a lot of damage, but he can slow it down when it's required.
Yeah. Highest kill participation in the game, tied with Kira, I believe, and that just is indicative of how much he was roaming around and actually getting things done in the mid game. His pathing was quite good. He showed up in random places. He's a very hard support to read, and that's very valuable. Being predictable is kind of the death of supports, and I think in solo queue as well, like you don't have to be attached at the hip to your AD carry, especially past like the 20-minute mark. Like at that point, if your top laner is split pushing and you kind of feel like the enemy's going to throw another person up there, like it's well within your right as a support and as a player to go up there and ditch your, the other people on your team. And I think that's what he does really well, is he reads what the enemy is going to do, and he shows up and makes a proactive play. Like you think about when they were 2v2ing top and they got that kill on aphromoo, and PvP Stayhouse came around as well. Like I think they're playing actually quite well.
Yeah. Well, that was very exciting to watch, watching Likkrit in his natural habitat, but on TK this time. Coming up next, special guest Inori will be stepping in as we turn our focus to the junglers, so stay tuned for that. However, now we're going to go back and rejoin the mainstream for an interview with ANX's Likkrit himself. We'll see you back here for Game 2.
Now about the game. You know, guys, in Russia, Dota is kind of a popular game. I'm not sure that I'm allowed to pronounce to say that, but in Russia, we don't care about slow game or if something is risky or not. In Russia, we just play the game, because otherwise it's not interesting, nor for us, nor for viewers. So that we just try to do our best and to entertain you guys as much as possible.
I am definitely entertained. I think everyone here is entertained, and I think the strategy worked. And I love that you say that, because the thing we know about you is that you love to play hard and fast with that brand, with that Bard, and now with an incredible Tahm Kench. What is your philosophy on support and how it should be played?
Well, my philosophy is pretty easy. You must do as much as possible. That's kind of all, but the thing is that when a guy has a nickname Likkrit picks Tahm for like a year, you may expect something. So we just went full nuts, and that's it.
You absolutely did, and you were given a lot of tools to do it as well. Were you surprised that you got your hands on the Nidalee for you and the Tahm Kench?
Well, actually, we haven't played this setup for pretty long, but our hands didn't forget the stuff, so we just went in, and even with us doing a lot of weird mistakes, the game was ours, we knew it. And in one moment, we just told each other, guys, if we don't get in caught now, we're winning game. And everyone was like, okay, and let's do this.
You guys did it. Fantastic win and fantastic words. Finally, how do you think the group is going to play out? Because you put it completely on its head.
Well, as soon as we are representing our region, we expect the best for us. But the thing is that this group is looking pretty interesting, because CLG won G2, we won CLG, you know what this means. And, I expect that we actually can have a shot of getting to quarterfinals, so good luck to us.
Good luck to you guys. Indeed. Fantastic victory, and I believe you as well. Congratulations, Likkrit. Keep playing like that, because that's what we love to see. Analyst X, do you guys as well?
Thank you very much, Shock. Keeping things interesting here. Game 1 of day 3. Albus Nox taking down CLG. But, gentlemen, right off the top, I've got to mention, we have our first in Italy game, and it is a success.
I mean, the draft in Gen was really interesting to me, guys. So the big story I took away was they got in that spot where they were like, at their last ban, they're like, okay, we have to choose between Nidalee and Syndra. And Syndra's been the one dominating, so I thought, okay, let's see if they're going to ban one or leave them both up. They trusted in giving up the Syndra, then drafted a poke comp, one of the harder comps to execute. You fall behind on a poke comp, you lose your window, you lose the game. But they drafted a poke comp against Syndra, and we were talking about, okay, They draft Syndra. There's no good laning matchups. What are you going to do? They took the Jace. The Jace could now build very naturally into the defensive Mortius. And from there, they execute an excellent poke comp. And Syndra, she's got a low health pool. She gets poked out. And the strategy worked.
Yeah, I mean, you can build that Hex Drinker. I don't think it means that Jace is a good matchup into Syndra.
No.
It can definitely kill him at level 6 before he gets there. The key is definitely, you know, how they played around it, right? CLG, they had the right idea. You know, they got the Syndra early. They had this winning matchup. They even sent Smithy over there early. He went to the turret level 4, burned the cleanse even off camera before it even panned over there, then returned again. They try and pressure so hard Kira, and he outplays it, saving his flash. Then they turn it around and they actually punish the low mobility of Syndra, which people have been talking about. You know, everyone's like, oh yeah, Syndra, top tier, you know, lane bully. However, 2 skirmishes back-to-back. Who he goes down, they catch him out.
Exactly, and it's outside of the lane that they're actually punishing this Syndra. So the lane advantage is there, but look at the way Huhi passed through this into 2 members of ANX. They're able to keep themselves alive. Huhi goes down very quickly, and Kobe, this is one of the big things you were looking at.
Exactly. They start the fight around mid lane where they know he just burned both summoners, and you saw in the previous one, Kira still had his flash, gets over the wall and surprises him, and then that one right there in the river trying to get vision back.
But let's talk about how Syndra was played in other games. You know, for example, FLICKR against Jensen. It was about strong ganking junglers pathing to his lane, initiating after the first stun and picking up kills. Huhi was around the map trying to make plays, not being played through in the mid lane. He wasn't the fulcrum. He was trying to be the one ganking other lanes, and I think that's what really hurt the strategy because Huhi actually fell pretty far behind.
Well, I've got to push us forward now to some of the more exciting action that happened in the game. I'm sorry, I know you've got... Oh, okay. All right, you want to jump in on that? Okay. All right, so 36 minutes into the game here, ANX interrupts CLG's bear and come away with a 4-for-1.
This is exactly what I was waiting for because CLG against Poke team setup, they're going for the Baron without taking anybody down, and from their ANX, they get the initial block on the fight. Stixxay can't get himself in from the bottom side. It's good blocking overall, and this first phase goes so well to ANX, they continue following it up. Likkrit again on this Tahm Kench, impact in the team fights, getting the right members, and they can follow on and then eventually take CLG down.
It's so funny to watch Likkrit on a warpath on this Tahm Kench. Beeline for the backline there, and Smurf had some very good Trundle pillars throughout this game to set up a lot of the kills.
It didn't even end here. The fact that Likkrit on what, 300-400 health stood around was actually the blocker for Stixxay, stopped him from coming in to steal away and try and get a snipe on the Baron. He knew his role, started off tanking 3, then more, then even turned around for the AD carry. What a play.
Huge fight for ANX, picking up the 4 kills plus the Baron. Now let's take a look at the fight that secured the win for Albus Nox Luna, brought to you by Acer.
So we're late into the game. It's ANX continuing their aggression through this, and you can see the Bard ultimate does hit too, but CLG try and turn it around. Look at how far Darshan is pushed out of this fight, and the health bars are so low, and this time in the fight, the skill shots are all landing for ANX. We saw a couple of messy fights from them, but continually going right into the fight from there with a Baron buff. They can look to close it out.
2 proactive Baron power plays were the story. The first one against the Tide. The vision had fallen down after CLG won their first fight. Took that Baron. The second one, that fight, icing on the cake.
Yeah, they caught out Nidalee, and Huhi got kind of baited into the middle of that fight there, walks right up on Syndra, and then he's in a bad spot. CLG have to retreat, and they just get chased down.
Player of the game going to Likkrit, the man on the stage there for that Tahm Kench play. I mean, we were looking at the Bard and the Brands coming into the tournament, now showcasing his ability to play this champion. You know, aside from maybe 1 or 2 ultimates that didn't necessarily hit, showing quite some prowess there.
I mean, he knew his role. That's the thing, is that he's known as a Brand player, he's known as a Zyra player, he's known to be more of a damage support, but knowing your role in a tankiness manner, occupying space is exactly what his team needed. A very brittle comp as a poke comp, but very well executed by Likkrit.
Yeah, and I have to say, the other thing we barely didn't touch on, though, was the vision in this game was chaotic. We were toggling back and forth, and there were so many pockets of Fog of War. Some of them for ANX resulted in Barons. The CLG ones only resulted in a couple of kills.
All right, well, excitement here in Game 1 on the day, but we've got plenty more to come. Rock, Tigers, and G2 Esports are getting ready to clash on stage, so don't go anywhere, because Worlds 2016 continues in just 3.5 minutes. So what were you trying to tell me there?
Right now.
You wanted to insert that yourself?
Sign in the crowd. Oh, really? Yeah. PogChamp. Yeah, the crowd's hella PogChamp. It's all loud.
Chaos gets gobbled up, and that's the flash of Tahm Kench. Huhi gets spat on.
2 summoners down, and he is going to be very vulnerable.
Она бесплатно. Поппер. Заставил. Отлично. Закричить. Справа чувака, зачизить. And for the second time at Worlds, a wildcard team has taken down another North American team.